Hello, welcome to playoffs of BPL Season 12 in the Tachyon Cutter Division. Our quarterfinals opponent is Shellsea, who we played in Week 6 last season, Season 11. And we would have played her this season in Week 7, but unfortunately, some series of events occurred that caused her to give me a forfeit win. But we're back against her this week. She has a Terra Mew, which is an absolutely insane, versatile threat that we need to be fully prepared for. Mega Garchomp and Ogerpon are extremely offensive threats into my team. Crobat is the fastest thing on her team, and it does outspeed all of mine. And then she's got Stakataka, which is realistically her only Diancie switch in for the week, excluding maybe Seismitoad, who we for sure know is probably coming. Galvantula, Sylveon, and Kartana are also dangerous threats. However, of the three, the only one I really expect to come is Galvantula, if it comes at all. But without further ado, let's get into what I believe that Shellsea is bringing to play against me this week. Starting off, I think she is going to be running a Shukaberry Stakataka. I'm really not sure what the exact moveset is going to be, or what the EV spread is. I'm very, very confident in assuming it will be max HP, but I don't know if it'll be max attack with the minimum defense needed to get the attack boost off of Beast Boost, max defense to maximize an Iron Defense body press set, or just max special defense to better take hits from Diancie. It could be Shukaberry, it could be Choppleberry, it could be Clear Amulet, it could be Assault Vest, or it could be Air Balloon. I think of all those options, I think Shukaberry is the best choice for her against my team. That way she has the best possible switch into Diancie that she can have. I do also expect her to have Seismitoad. This is more for Quabble, but it can still kind of switch into Diancie, despite the fact that I do expect a physically defensive set. Earth Power Scald knockoff Sludge Wave feels the most appropriate, but it's not entirely like out of the question that she could throw something else at me. I don't know if I said Assault Vest is possible on this or not, but yeah, those are the two main options I'm thinking she probably runs to help her deal with Quabble and maybe Diancie better. Alright. But the moveset on Seismitoad isn't really crazy, I don't think. It'll just be stabs and then Sludge Wave for Shaman coverage, and then knockoff to remove my items, with Water Absorb for the ability so that it doesn't get Wave Crashed or Aqua Stepped by Quack. Stakataka will probably be running Gyro Ball and Trick Room. It could also run, like I said, Body Press, Stone Edge, Iron Defense, a bunch of different moves in that regard. But there's no real way to know exactly what this is going to be. I do foresee it having Gyro Ball, though. Her most physically offensive threat into me is Mega Garchomp. This thing at +2 would be an absolute monster. I do think it'll have 256 speed, so that it's faster than Weavile after a Scale Shot, but that's not guaranteed. She could opt to make it a little more bulky, but I do think this is probably the most threatening Garchomp she could throw at me. It'll probably have Earthquake Scale Shot. If it has Sword Stance, I wouldn't be shocked either. This thing has crazy sweeping potential into me, and Fire Blast is also there for coverage against Shaman. Next on the list is her Terra Mew. I do fear greatly a Terra Water Mew with a Covert Cloak. It blocks me from Malignant Chaining it, and it's the best defensive type into my team. A Cosmic Power, Stored Power, Body Press set is basically the only thing I'm really expecting. It's possible it could be D-Dance. I don't see a Calm Mindset being good here at all. Stored Power and Body Press allows her to hit the majority of my team for super effective damage, or just good damage in general. Because I don't have a Psychic type, so I don't resist both of those types on anything. Terra Water is, like I said, the most likely. I think it's the most threatening. There are other threatening types, but this is the one that I primarily prepared for. Outside of Steel, Poison, and Fairy, right? Next up on the list, before I move on, Mew will probably have 176 speed just to get ahead of max speed Moltres. If it's Terra Water, it could also have max speed just to avoid losing a tiebreaker to Shaman. But I do think it will be more than likely just this speed, and then she has plenty of other options to deal with Shaman, be they Ogerpon, Galvantula, like Stack Attack, even kind of Crobat is the biggest one, really. So I don't think she really needs to fear Shaman that badly. Like I said, Crobat I do think is coming. It is probably going to have some stab moves somewhere, like whether it be Sludge Bomb or Brave Bird, or special moves, right? Or I meant to say, this thing doesn't really get a physical poison move, does it? Huh? Yeah, I guess not. Cross poison, that it? Well, anyways. It'll probably be running a steel move with a Terra Steel typing. I don't know why I have that set to poison. Infiltrator for the ability just so I can get past Diancie with the sub up, since I have been exploiting the hell out of that this season, and just enough speed to get ahead of max speed Weavile. I can't really see her not bringing this. It would be kind of foolish not to. It's the fastest thing on her team, and it stops Diancie from doing anything crazy. And the threat of Terra Steel creates a 50-50 for me to choose between like a rock move and a fairy move anyways. So I do think it will be a very strong bring into me. Last on the list isn't necessarily a mon I expect to see. I actually expect to see Ogerpon over this. Bug Buzz, Energy Ball, Thunder are 3 moves that when put together, I don't really have a mon that switches into those. Like I have mons that take 1 or 2 of those hits, but I don't have a mon that takes all 3 of those with the combination of like Compound Eyes making Thunder super accurate, right? Like Ting-Lu really hurts. Takes a beating from Energy Ball, and if this thing, it could be Focus Sash, it could be Specs. Sash Lead is slightly better, but Specs is still really dangerous. The one downside I think that this mon has is it's slower than Diancie, so plus Sticky Webs into my Empoleon could be really bad defensively for her, outside of Seismitoad, which I mean is fine. But yeah, I mean, like, I do expect Ogerpon, if it comes, to have Power Whip or Wood Hammer, and then Ivy Cudgel, Swords Dance knockoff, just to speed tie with Diancie and win the speed tie with a strong grass move so she doesn't, like, die. Because you can't Trailblaze on Diancie. And you probably don't want to be running 2 grass moves into this matchup. But that's, I do think Galvantula is slightly more threatening, which is why I have this on the thing as opposed to Ogerpon. Because this Petulant walls all of her physical attackers, barring a +2 Mega Garchomp. This mon is crazy defensively, as we know from the season, and Rocky Helmet just serves so many purposes in dealing with Stack Attacka, whether it be Gyro Ball, I can spam Recover. Nightshade helps chip down Stack Attacka really well too. Doesn't 3-hit KO, but that's absolutely fine because it will after Rocky Helmet. Malignant Chain is for everything else, like Ogerpon, Sylveon, Galvantula, literally everything else besides Stack Attack and Kartana, which I really don't expect to see Kartana in this matchup. It's just so bad into me. Like, Moltres hard walls it, Petulant really hard walls it. Like, these 2 Pokemon alone, like, absolutely stonewall the thing. And you know for a fact I'm bringing at least one of them. Parting Shot is nice if it's not Clear Amulet Stack Attacka. I'd like to pivot with this thing if I can. And then, like I said, Recover just to chip down Stack Attacka while it's Gyro Balling me, because I can't really do much of anything. I was going to run Weakness Policy, but I decided to change to Rocky Helmet for this purpose of being like a stalling physical wall with Rocky Helmet chip. Terra Fairy just to prevent Garchomp from getting a Scale Shot off and reduces the damage from Earthquakes at +2. So that we can actually survive them. Parting Shot, and then maybe get Diancie in, who we are running Guard Swap on this week to deal with the Cosmic Power Mew set. I think this will be really funny, because if she does decide to get a ton of stored powers out of, we can just easily steal all the boosts with Guard Swap, and this basically secures us a win con, provided it's not also Agility, right? Moonblast Earth Power hits majority of things on her team for good damage. I didn't feel like I needed Mystical Fire, though it would have helped me greatly against a Galvantula lead, but I ultimately made a last-second decision and decided Guard Swap was better over Mystical Fire for the purpose of Mew versus Galvantula lead, considering I didn't think Galvantula was going to be coming to this matchup. Like I said, I thought Ogerpon is more likely, but I was aware that Galvantula was more threatening. Diamond Storm is to hit Ogerpon specifically. It also works for Galvantula, but there is a chance it misses, and Moonblast does a fine job anyways. So yeah, I mean, Diamond Storm just OHKOs Ogerpon and does better damage into it than Moonblast and Earth Power do. Next up on the list is Quaquavel. Quaquavel is kind of a little boring set, kind of. It's just really an exploitive set, I'd say. She only has one flying switch in, and that is Stakataka, who is 4 times weak to fighting. So unless she wants to run Terra's Poison on Mew, or like get rid of the, or excuse me, not Terra Poison, like, what's Terra Electric, right? I don't know. I don't know if there's a type off the top of my head that resists both flying and fighting. So, I mean, like, it's just a good combination of attacks, and we're running Terra Flying to boost the Brave Birds further. But yeah, this is just meant to rip through team if I can, and then keep hazards off while staying healthy. Enough speed to get ahead of Crobat at max speed at +1, and yeah, nothing really too complex. Diancie has enough speed to speed tie with, what's-his-face, Ogerpon. Moving on, we have Shaman specifically for the purpose of dealing with a Terra Water Mew and Seismitoad. Being a switch into that, I can pivot out with Baton Pass while applying heavy pressure. Leech Seed and Seed Flare help out with dealing with her water type, and like I said before, her Mew. Healing Wish is just like a last-ditch effort if I need. I didn't really have another move I wanted to throw into the slot, and I figured it's better to revive something else, because Shaman isn't super useful here outside of Seismitoad. Moltres is a Flamethrower set this week. That's the only attacking move we have besides U-Turn. We have enough bulk and special defense. I'll throw these calcs up here as to what specifically they were when I remember them while I'm editing this video. Toxic is to deal with non-Terra Poison or Steel Mew that isn't, well, more specifically Terra Water Mew, right? Because Mew could very, very easily come in on Moltres, especially if it's Terra Water, because nothing on her team really wants to get burned or switch in on Moltres to deal with it. Like, if you just look, like, really nothing wants to switch in on Flamethrower on this team. So we're going to be exploiting that, and then Toxic to deal with anything that actually does, i.e. Mew. Roost to keep my health up, and U-Turn for pivoting. And finally on the list is a physically defensive Ting-Lu, so that we can take a hit from Garchomp. This is going to be our first Garchomp switch in. We are going to take probably a +2 Earthquake and Whirlwind it out, so that we can set up spikes or whatnot. And then we have Body Slam for specifically Crobat, so we can paralyze it and make the rest of my team faster than it. Earthquake just for general damage purposes, and like I said, Spikes is good for overall chip and utility, so that other Pokemon on my team can break through, like Diancie and Quaquavel. But yeah, that's what we're bringing this week. We got Boots on Moltres, we got lefties on Ting-Lu, as per usual, lefties on Shaman, and Boots on Quack. Pretty boring items this week, but you know what? Guard Swap's gonna be fun. So, without any further ado, I will say again, let's take a look at what we're looking at in the matchup. So, right off the bat, Kartana is here, which is bizarre to me. I don't think that's correct at all, considering I have Moltres on my team and Pecharunt on my team, and the fact that it doesn't outspeed anything of major importance, barring Quaquavel. But, okay. The Mew is Terra Poison, not Terra Water, like I feared. And there's no Crobat, so she doesn't have a Mon on her team that outspeeds my Weavile, but I also didn't bring Weavile. But I'm looking here and I'm seeing Trick Room is very, very likely, right? Like, that's totally possible with how this team looks. The Garchomp doesn't necessarily need to be fast, but it could be. There's, like, this could be a mixed, it could be a Trick Room and a standard variant. Like, this is still threatening. But Kartana is definitely not a great bring into my team, especially over Crobat. It just kind of loses you as scapegoat for dealing with Diancie. That's my complaint with it, but let's see how she uses it, why don't we? and get into the match. Let's start the hunt. Oh, yeah, before I forget to mention, my lead for this game is Petrant. I was determined to lead Diancie if she brought Galvantula, but ultimately, because there's no Galvantula, I feel as though Petrant is a very, very safe lead. The only things that leading Petrant would be bad against is if we see Mew lead or a Seismitoad lead. We can work with basically anything else. But yeah, that's why we'll be leading Petrant. And if it's not Seismitoad or Mew, we don't have to switch out. So yeah, specifically for Shaman on Seismitoad and Tinglu for Mew. Just so we avoid any nonsense with Mew happening, right? Anyways, like I said, I'm not going to delay any further. Just forgot to mention that. Let's go. So we got a good lead. The Ogerpon is definitely threatened by this. There's no way you ever stay in here, so I'm just going to go for a Night Trade. I could go for a Parting Shot here, but that would put me in a really awkward position, considering this is what I want in versus Ogerpon, and I do expect Stakataka to come into this, if not Kartana. And if Kartana comes into this, you're risking a lot. So in comes Stakataka, and we get our Nightshade off, which is really good chip right off the bat. Even if I wanted to switch out now, I don't think I really have a purpose to do so, because this Petrant is designed to deal with this Stakataka via our Rocky Helmet. So we're just going to stay in and go for another Nightshade, which we get the chip off. That's great. She goes for a Body Press, hard reading me going out in Tinglu, which is something we kind of expected. We kind of expected Shellsea to play like this a little bit, because I know that she likes to go for hard reads. But I think this is a awfully risky decision to make if you don't have reliable recovery. So I am a little worried it has like rest or something at this point, but I'm just going to keep Nightshading, and if that doesn't work out, then it doesn't work out. And she goes for a Gyro Ball, and that will be the Stakataka. That thing is dead. That is a major factor in my Diancie not sweeping this team, so now all that's really left is a tiny amount of chip damage on the Garchomp and a minor amount of, well, I need a good chunk of damage on the Seismitoad, but everything else is within range of Diancie. And then Ogerpon's just down to a speed tie. In comes Kartana. She makes a really good prediction here, assuming that I don't have another Ghost move, which, I mean, will cost me, because I realized in this heat of the moment, oh, hey, Petrant can't actually do anything against this, and I don't want this to be Clear Amulet or anything, so I'm not going to Parting Shot. I'm just going to throw in Moltres, because Moltres always beats this here, even if it's Swords Dances. Okay, that's a bit threatening. I'm probably going to eat a fat knockoff, but I never die here, and I always get to Flamethrower and take this out. Worst case scenario, Moltres is down to like 20% of its health, right? But like, the only way that this thing gets Oko on me is a Giga Impact, right? And there's no way you would ever run Giga Impact card. So I'm gonna explain why that's actually not 100% relevant. Yes, that absolutely would have killed me had it connected. But all that does is just bring Diancie in for the free 2-hit KO. If Earth Power doesn't Oko, it's a pretty high odds, considering it needs to be a certain speed to be any use. But you can't both Oko me and get a speed boost, so there's really no good reason, like I said, for having brought Kartana, and like especially using it like that in the beginning of this game. You kind of just traded it for Moltres if that hit, and then Diancie's on the field, and you don't have a great Mon to switch into Diancie. So yeah, I mean, like, the miss is unfortunate, because now you're playing 4 to 6 Mons instead of 4 to 5, but like, it is what it is. So in comes Mew. I went for a Toxic here, because I was like, I don't want this to be a weakness policy set, and if it is a weakness policy set, I don't want to trigger it with U-turn. But seeing that she immediately Terra Poisons it tells me it's not weakness policy, so I'm just going to go for a U-turn this turn to get out of here, throw Tinglu in, phase this out. If it's Taunt, then something's probably dead, but we could still guard swap with Diancie at the end of the day, so it's not the big deal. It's not the biggest deal in the world. That Body Press does a good chunk of damage, but we are whirlwinding that out, And in comes Garchomp, which is absolutely fine for us because we are a physically defensive Tinglu, and we're designed to take a hit from this thing. So that works out well. I'm going to throw up a set of spikes here just to get some chip damage on stuff later. Break some stuff, you know. And that is a very threatening +2 Garchomp. But we're designed to take hits from this. So we take 52. And that tells me it is probably max attack Mega Garchomp, which leads me to believe that it's also not Mega or max HP Garchomp. Probably 112 HP, 252 plus attack, right? With the same speed as before is what I'm thinking at this point. In comes Mew. I'm like, okay, always click Earthquake here to get tons of damage off, right? No matter what. Nothing wants to switch into an Earthquake. Mew doesn't want to take the Earthquake. And yeah, we get a nice sizable chunk of damage off on Garchomp. And I'm like, okay, well, I don't die to any hits here. I don't want you setting up with Scale Shot, plus Earthquake, plus Swords Dance, or whatever. So I'm just going to Whirlwind, get you out of here, because I live a hit. And we live the hit, and it gets dragged into Seismitoad. So we're getting a good amount of phasing chip right now. But Seismitoad is not something I want to keep Tinglu in for. I can sack this later if I want, and Shaman's super safe into Seismitoad always. Our special defense, like, absolutely takes all hits from this thing, no matter what it wants to throw at us. Like, even if it's Sludge Wave, right? Or Ice Beam. I don't remember if it gets Ice Beam. I know it gets Ice Punch. But, like, yeah. I expected the thing to switch out, but it didn't. And it set up rocks, which is crazy to me. So, like, I threw in Moltres because I'm like, well, Kartana's down. I don't really need it for anything besides Ogerpon. But I'm still worried about Rock Tomb on Ogerpon. So I'm just going to bring it in. I'm going to U-turn because obviously I don't want to stay in here. I could have Toxic, but if Mew had come in, that would have been silly. So I figured the U-turn was my best play. She is going to stay in, and she is going to get some chip off on me and get a Rock Tomb, which lowers my speed. Which makes Baton Pass a little poopy. It's not ideal, right? But it's still fine. I can still Baton Pass here. Like, nothing's really dissuading me from that. And I actually have no issues Baton Passing again. I'm like, okay, you're definitely switching this time. And she doesn't. She attacks again. Which is like, oh my god, what? Why are you staying in against this? You're crazy. So I'm going to go into Quaquaval now. And I know that I'm probably slower than this. Because, like, I'm -1 speed, which puts me at, like, 176 or something. And this thing should be like 182 speed. So I'm like, I'm probably going to be slower than this, but that's fine, right? Let's just get some damage off on this. I expect to do 34 to 40 here, but I actually end up doing 52, which tells me it's not physically defensive at all. Max HP, sure, but it's probably specially defensive over physically defensive. But I noticed that I move first, which tells me it is minus speed. Which had me thinking, oh, maybe for Trick Room? Yeah, I guess that makes sense. But it might just be minus speed because it's like a mixed offensive set, what's called Rock Tomb and all that. She didn't want to compromise on the damage, which totally makes sense. She goes for a Scald, trying to get the burn here. I am very, very confident, and I'm assuming I'm not going to get burned, and I don't. So we get 2 Rapid Spins off, and now we are in a fantastic position. I did not quite realize it at the time, but Mew is forced to come in here. The Stealth Rock chip. The Spikes chip is really nice. But in this position, I should have realized this is Cosmic Power, Body Press, Sword Power. If I Terrestrialize, you cannot kill me with either of those 2 moves, and I will 2-hit KO this Mew no matter what, with Brave Bird. But I don't see that in the heat of the moment, and Quaquaval absolutely would have won here if I had done that, but instead, I only do about 43%, which tells me that the 80 or the 92 EVs are probably invested into defense, and the rest is max HP, like I anticipated. This is really unfortunate, because I would have won the game if I had done this, because she clicked Cosmic Power, and she wouldn't have had to switch into both Close Combat and Brave Bird anymore, and I would have outsped the rest of her team, because neither of these mons can hold items. So that's a misplay. I don't think it's extensively problematic, because I'm like, you know, I still have Guard Swap Diancie in the back, and I don't want to not be Poison type for Garchomp if it goes for Scale Shots, right? But none of this really matters because I get a crit with Brave Bird. And she forfeits. So, we'll take it. We're on to semifinals now, I guess. that's certainly a way to win our match. Like I said before, I don't know if I actually said this before, but the crit doesn't necessarily matter because at that point she's forced to start roosting. If she doesn't have roost, then the thing's gonna die, so she needs to have roost and stored power there. Taunt isn't feasible because she would have done that against the Ting Lu, but like, if you roost out my Quavel, remember I have roost on this too. I don't necessarily need to just keep Brave Birding to, like, take out the rest of my health, right? I can just, like, stall out your roosts, kind of, and not kill myself. And then I'd probably sack Ting Lu to force her to use Body Press to kill that, and then, so she doesn't get Whirlwinded, right? And then Diancie comes in, guard swaps, steals your boosts. You go for a stored power because why wouldn't you? And then you lose your boosts. So then I earth power twice. She's forced to roost at least twice. She must be down to 4 roosts max. It's probably more like 3. And then all I have to do is sack another Mon when she gets a bunch more cosmic powers off. And past that point, like, Quackleval almost wins the game. Like, I definitely have the tools. Even if Moltres had died to Kartana, right? I definitely would have had the tools to win with Diancie. In the worst case scenario, it comes down to a tiebreaker between Ogerpon and Diancie. And if she has to attack there, right? Which means Petrant gets to come in. And with Terra Fairy, because I wouldn't have terrestrialized, I still win that. So it's just kind of not favored for her. So yeah, that's it for quarterfinals of playoffs of BPL. We are up against McNutt for our semifinals match. That is a rematch from our week 4 of this season. Hopefully we can beat him and progress to finals. It feels like I've been playing against a lot of Ultra Beasts this season, you know? I don't know what's up with it, but like, Shellsea had 2, McNutt has 2, and we're going back up against him. Feels like there's a lot of Ultra Beasts in my season, but I looked it over and there really aren't that many. I'm just fighting a lot of them for some reason. But yeah, that'll do it for me. Luigi's Mansion Blindfolded has finished at this point. I will start to upload those, the VODs from those, either next week, the week after, one of those two. This is kind of a late upload, because I recorded this once already, and the audio got corrupted. So, yeah, I had to re-record this today. Today it is, I believe this is Friday. No, we're on Thursday. It's Thursday today. I don't know if I'll get this episode up in time. But yeah, I mean, like, if I do, I do. If I don't, I don't. But I don't know how much time I have left in today, you know. So yeah, this upload's gonna be late, so I apologize for that. But yeah, thank you for watching, and have a good day. I'll catch y'all next week. See ya.